Okay, guys. Oh, happy day. My name is Dee Bolton. I'm your faithful mom, and I am a NASM certified personal trainer as well as wellness educator. And this I'm super excited to share is my, I don't know what number, but it's my Woman Worth Knowing Wednesday. And I just like to share women who are absolutely dynamic. They're great at what they do and they're experts in their fields. And today I get to share a very dear friend of mine, Alexis Newman, who is a registered dietitian. And we're just bringing awareness to November, which is National Diabetes Awareness Month. And that's one of her actual specialties. A little bit more about Alexis. She helps professional women gain control of emotional eating and learns how to reduce food cravings and build confidence in their skin that they are in. She's a registered dietitian who is currently providing private nutrition counseling. She loves to help her clients think outside the box and find their inner voice to help them thrive. My friends, I want you to meet Alexis.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here with you.
I'm excited to be here with you because your story is so amazing because you serve women, not only who has diabetes, but just to help them with their nutritional goals. And your story is absolutely amazing of how you got here. So I think we probably should start where at the beginning. So what made, I honestly personally don't know a lot of Black registered dietitians. It's just not something that I don't know, I was introduced to, and especially until I got into the fitness field and all the ones that I've come across, there have been Black professionals, but not as many as our counterpart. So I just want to know what made you kind of get into this field?
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 18 months old. And so this January, I'll be celebrating living type 1 for 37 years.
Oh,
Um,
praise God.
yes, praise God. That's the only one I can really thank because I don't have any complications, and any complication I have had, they've been able to be resolved. And that's nothing but Jesus.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah. So when I was about 12, I had a diabetes educator that I really liked. We really connected. And I was like, hey, I want your job. How can I be you? And she said, well, you can either be a dietitian or you could be a nurse. And at the time, like, I did not like blood, weird smells, and like, I don't know, I just was grossed out by the medical field. And then as I was like researching what a dietitian was, I'm like, okay. So basically, I went into like the field of dietetics just so that I can become a certified diabetes educator. I didn't really care about the health aspect. I didn't care about the nutrition. I just wanted to help people with type 1 diabetes. Um, so that was just what I did. I went to school. I had to do an internship. I had to pass a national exam, keep up with CEUs, and it's, what I do. And so it wasn't until about, I want to say 2011 or 2013, I was having a lot of random medical issues, nothing too severe, like mood swings, acne. I kept having lower back pain. And so I was going to my chiropractor and I'm like, hey, I have all these issues. Can you help me out? And I was a practicing dietitian at the time. And he was like, have you looked at your diet? And I was like, I have not looked at my diet. I was one of those practitioners who like ate whatever, barely ate a vegetable, didn't really exercise. But I was like telling people they should eat vegetables and exercise like that. I was that person. So I started to like dig into my health magically, right? There's a
Mhm.
connection to like food and mood and food and acne and also known as inflammation, right? So I dug into my nutrition. I was able to resolve a lot of my issues. Through that time, I was able to realize I actually had a food allergy, which probably played a role in a lot of my like medical stuff. And that ignited my passion for food and nutrition and wellness, and really what has led me to where I am now. in between that, I was also working at a residential eating disorder facility. And so that's where I kind of learned about the psychology of emotions and really the connection of food and motion. So that's why I'm also passionate to help women really realign their relationship with food, because it really plays hand in hand with mood. And that's where I really learned the skills of nutrition therapy. That's kind of like what I do.
Which I absolutely love, because you can't live life on a diet. And I feel like a lot of women feel like they can. And that the diet has nothing to do with why you're not nourishing yourself properly. Whether it be education, whether it be emotional, there's so many reasons. Whether you be in obsession mode, like when you're all about it, or you're just in, neglect and you're just not checked in. There's so many aspects it is to food. And I know for me, like I was a drive-through junkie. I was a cake a day kind of girl, like before I started my journey, and it really had to transform. And just being bodybuilding, where you're in obsession mode about every macro and everything you put in your mouth, and to be in like lifestyle is totally two different things. And I had to navigate those over the years. So I love that you do nutrition therapy versus just a meal plan, a diet, that type of thing. I have just like a basic question for those who might not even know. What does a registered dietitian do? What makes you different from me going and just getting a meal plan for? So can you just give like a basics of what a registered dietitian does?
Yeah, so basically there's a couple different routes to go to become a registered dietitian. So I did this traditional route where I went to a 4-year university, and I have my bachelor's of science in nutrition and dietetics. And you have to take certain courses in order to get that bachelor's degree. And then you have to apply to get into an internship, and you have to match, like it's a matching system. Like if you don't match, you don't get in. And back in the day, because I've been a dietitian for a while, the matching was very good. It was like, I want to say like 96% match, where now it's very low. It's a very low match rate, just because of the saturation of people going into dietetics and not as many internships available. So I got into my internship, and I think it was like a couple thousand hours. I don't remember. It's horrible, but a couple thousand hours. And then once you
that's one of those things you get done with it and you're like, it's over, I'm done.
Exactly.
Like, I'm never going to do that again.
Exactly. And so after the internship, you didn't have to study for your board exam. And that for me, I mean, I could write a book about that, but praise God, I passed finally. It took me like 3 tries. And I found out in the studying of it, I have ADHD. So I'm about to age myself, but we went in college, I would take my exam paper and pencil, like paper and pen. Whereas, as this around when I left my internship, they transitioned the test to a computer test. So I was not familiar with taking a computer test, and that like messed me all up. So, but I'm a dietitian nonetheless. And
you got it, right?
yes, exactly. So it's a lot that goes into it. There's other dietitians who've had different careers before. And so they may have to take some undergrad courses to get into a graduate program. And then they have to apply to the internship, and then they have to take their exam. So there's a couple different.
And so once you get the board certification, what does that entail? Like what service do you provide as a registered dietitian?
So we can work in various different places, clinical settings. So that would be typically in a hospital, where if you're newly diagnosed with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, cancer, any kind of medical disease, you would do the nutrition education to help them manage that. There's outpatient nutrition counseling. So you're not as critical per se, but you want to go to a dietitian to help maybe prevent or help you get off of medication or better manage your medical diseases. Like I started in a residential eating disorder facility. So different specialty facilities. I have friends who specialize in working in the school district. So they do education for the children in the school district. You can work in the government. So creating the guidelines for the labels.
With my second daughter, I actually had gestational diabetes, and they put me with a registered dietitian. I went to like a group class every week to help me, just naturally eat well and those type of things. Because like I said, I had a really poor diet. Like I was living the drive-through junkie life, processed food. And so I had diabetes with two of my daughters. My last one, I didn't. And so I went to a registered dietitian for that. So definitely someone you need to make changes in your life. You've done so much. Now, you even mentioned about the diabetes camp that you did as well. So eating disorder awareness is on the rise. Can you say something about that for our listeners, our viewers, I guess?
Yeah. So how I got interested in working with individuals who have eating disorders, I had two good friends in college who struggled. One struggled with anorexia and one struggled with bulimia. And I'm naturally a compassionate person, so I really wanted to help, and I really felt helpless. And so I did a lot of research, and then I'm like, I really enjoy working with this population. And happened as I was finishing my internship, a job opened up. So I'm not active in that world right now. I have a couple dietitian friends. So one, if you follow the Encouraging Dietitian, she's African American, amazing dietitian who specializes in helping Black women who struggle with eating disorders. What I'm realizing now is that eating disorder was typically painted as a white, skinny disease, right? A lot of people who were in treatment that I treated, they were often Caucasian and very thin. But the reality is that people of all shapes and sizes struggle with eating disorders. And it really needs to be known that African American women struggle with eating disorder or disordered eating, and it's either brushed underneath the rug or it's just not addressed. And I know that a lot of people are speaking out against it to normalize the face of what someone who struggles with an eating disorder looks like.
And I love that you put it disordered eating. That changes the perspective of it, because I feel like eating disorder has a, like you said, white connotation. And if you look at it as disordered eating, you think of it you just think of it differently, which is what it is. So that is amazing. I also want to talk about diabetes because it's National Diabetes Month, but I just wanted to share, like, because you're so brilliant and like you do so much for the community, and I just want to share all that you do. But let's start with the camp. What was your experience like there?
It was amazing. So Keystone Diabetes Kids Camp, or Keystone Diabetic Kids Camp, I've been a part of for a very long time. And we are family. We love hard. We fight even harder. Like it's an amazing organization. It's all volunteer run. The majority of us are type 1 diabetic. And we've been friends for, I can't even do the counting. My first year there, it was coming out of my freshman year of college, I think, it was coming out of my sophomore year of college.
Okay.
I've been connected with them ever since. More recent, it's been hard because I have a toddler, so getting to camp with a toddler is impossible. I did it when she was about to be a year old, and camp is away, and that was like crazy.
That was a wake-up call.
Yeah.
What season you were in.
So then I transitioned to help with recruiting interns. So we do recruit for dietetic interns to get up and coming dietitians aware of type 1 diabetes, because a lot of people just don't know, and they don't know the life of it. So I love camp. I hope to still be involved in my old age. Just because it's important. There's not many type 1 diabetics of color. And so I think it's really important for me to use my voice and show my face and be at camp, just in case there's one or two diabetics of color there, so they can see that they can thrive and be okay with type 1 diabetes. So that's the reason why I continued after my sophomore year in college.
That's awesome. So let's talk about that. Type 1, type 2.
Yes.
What's the difference? And also, you said there's not a lot of type 1 of color. Is that more prevalent in different, like, is that not prevalent in the Black culture?
It's not prevalent in Black culture or
Really?
or any, yeah, it's typically like if you look up who's at risk for type 1, it's Caucasian people. Yeah.
Okay. So what is type 1?
Okay, sure. So what type 1 diabetes is basically there's a little organ called the pancreas, and there's a set of cells on the pancreas that create insulin. And think of insulin as a little key to open up your cell to let the sugar in. So for whatever reason, when you have type 1, your body kills off those cells, so you no longer have insulin to let sugar in your cells. So I am dependent on insulin, and anyone with type 1 diabetes is dependent on insulin. So you can either inject it with a syringe or an insulin pump or a combination of both. And typically, a lot of people think of young children getting it, but really at any age you can get type 1 because your immune system is attacking. Type 2 diabetes is basically when your body is making insulin and your body doesn't recognize that insulin is there, or you don't have enough insulin to keep your blood sugars in range. And typical risk factors is genetics, environmental factors. There is some correlation to your weight in type 2, but we're finding more and more that it's more of a genetic disease rather than based on weight alone. Because I know a lot of people who may have a little bit more body weight on them and they don't have type 2 diabetes, nor are they at risk for it. So that's one misnomer that a lot of people have, is that, oh, I'm overweight, so I'm at risk for type 2 and I'm gonna definitely get it. But there's a lot more factors that come into play. I like to call myself a diabetes advocate, because I really like to advocate for all types, because it's important for people's voices to be heard and to really fight against stereotypes between both types. There's other types of diabetes. So there's Moody, which is basically maturity onset diabetes, which is a genetic factor. There is Cushing's syndrome, cystic fibrosis related diabetes. I've just found out recently diabetes type 3C, basically you might have had something else wrong with your pancreas and they had to remove your pancreas. So now you are diabetic.
Insulin dependent. Yeah. Okay. So I believe my grandfather was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when he was in his late 30s. And that's actually one of the complications, like when he passed. Do you think that that's been a correlation or something that we've been taught, like if heavier people are automatically at risk for type 2 diabetes?
Well, I think that in research, they showed, like, I think it showed in research, like, oh, a lot of people who have a certain body weight, they have type 2, but they didn't look at why. So just because you have it doesn't mean like that's the reason. I know that lifestyle can play a role in it. So if you have lots of inflammation, if you have lots of stressors, that can typically cause the onset of type 2 diabetes. And I think it just, in research, it showed up, but no one dug deeper to see why.
So that means, anybody can be at risk for type 2 diabetes. Is it definitely diet dependent, or are there and there's also stress as a factor? What other things put you at risk for type 2 diabetes?
I know that, like you said, stress, genetics, environmental factors. So toxins, things like that. And then those are the main ones that come to mind. Yeah. I think too, if you're not active, I know even for myself that on days that I'm not as active on other days, I'm a lot more insulin resistant, meaning I need more insulin. So if you're already at risk for type 2, and then you happen to not have an active lifestyle, that could potentially set you up to have a risk for type 2. But there's also plenty of lazy people that don't get diabetes also. So it's, you know.
There's genetics, like you said, that's involved. There's so much more involved, but it's definitely something to be aware of, and so that you can advocate for whatever you need if you feel like you might be at risk. There's some things like symptoms that you might experience that you might want to ask your doctor to take a diabetes test. And what does that entail? Checking on your diabetes to see if you have diabetes.
No, that's such a great question. So regardless of if you have type 1 or type 2 or any type of diabetes, the symptoms are the same. So if you have frequent urination, like more than normal, if you are thirsty all the time, if you lose weight rapidly, if you are hungry all the time, that's another one. If you are fatigued, these are just some good signs that you might want to ask your doctor to do a hemoglobin A1C. And all that is an average blood sugar from the last 3 months to give you an idea of where you are. A lot of primary care physicians can give that test at least annually, so you can kind of keep an eye on that.
Okay. So that's, I feel like, very helpful, because I don't know if I would know where to start if I thought that I might have diabetes. How can we support our friends that, or our family who might have diabetes? I know that a lot of people in the African American culture can probably think of somebody in their life that they has diabetes. So can you help us care for them better?
Sure. I would say just ask what the support look like, because I know it's very different from person to person. I know that like my husband, if I say, hey, I need a snack because I have a low blood sugar, he jumps up and gets it right away. Or, I have had family who would just text like, hey, I saw you're not feeling well. Like, how are you doing? And so I just think asking, if you know a family member has diabetes, ask. If you're having a gathering, say, hey, is there any food that would make you feel more comfortable? Just to consider them. I think that would be really nice.
I think those are amazing suggestions. There's something that I thought of too, is that when you were younger, you were influenced by the woman when you were 12, she was African American?
I don't remember. I don't think so. I don't think she.
Well, and then you said the type 1 diabetes community is very small for, I guess, African Americans, if it's not common. So if you did have type 1 diabetes and you do feel like you're alone, where could you go for a support network?
Yes. So I'm part of a group called Dope Diabetics. And that is on Facebook. It's for women who have any kind of diabetes, type 1, type 3. If you have a loved one, like, it's just open. And then there's certain hashtags you can follow. So one is WOC diabetes, so women of color diabetes, BIPOC diabetes, Black diabetics. Like, these are all hashtags that I've used to kind of get connected. And we call it the DOC, Diabetic Online Community on the DOC. So
I love that.
Yeah, there's a couple pages I like. So my friend Kylene at Black Diabetic Girl, she's great information. And then I have another really good friend. She was misdiagnosed. I think they both were misdiagnosed. They were diagnosed as type 2, but eventually they were diagnosed with latent autoimmune diabetes. So a couple places where you can go for support if you're feeling alone is Dope Diabetics. We're on Facebook and also Instagram. It's a community for women that have diabetes, all types. Then there's also Black Diabetic Info, and my girl is on there giving some great education videos and information. And then also Black Diabetic Girl. There's another one for men. It's called Maximus Bolus, I believe. And this one is centered on African American men who have diabetes. So it's great.
Very, very cool. Yeah, I think that's great information to keep people connected and just to learn as much information as you can, whether you have it or you have a loved one who has it and you just need to find community, because that's how we all grow. That's great as you give those resources. So I would have to say you are amazing. From the time you were 18 months old to just share information about diabetes. And I think that, why can't I say it when I'm on camera? What I was saying to you before. That's so weird. My brain literally keeps going, shoo, like it's gone with thought. So it's really beautiful to see that's something that was put in you 18 months old. Like we all have our tests, and this could be something that, most people wouldn't deal with, but you've successfully lived with type 1 diabetes for almost 37 years. That right there is amazing and a testament to God, like you said. And like something you've been called to do is just to share his glory through that. So it's really amazing to be able to just be hopefully a little link in the chain that gets your voice out to somebody who needs information about diabetes. And I'm so grateful that you were able to take the time today to be on the show. And how can people connect with you and just to learn more from you, because you're always posting fantastic content as well on Instagram and other social media?
Yeah, so on Instagram, you can find me at Lady Lex, LADIELEX. And that's mostly my day-to-day life with diabetes. I post pictures and memes and videos on that site, just more focused for diabetes education. And then for my professional nutrition counseling, it's Alexis _M_Newman, NEWMAN. And that's more my professional page where I do more of the education for nutrition, emotional eating, and things like that.
And you said that you do nutrition therapy. Do you work with people online? Can people connect with you that way?
Yes, so I am currently taking new clients. I do nutrition counseling virtually right now just because of all that's happening. So yeah, and you can reach me on my Instagram page if you follow the link tree, and you can sign up there if you're interested in doing a discovery call.
Perfect. And I will put all the information and ways to connect with you definitely in the show notes as well. And I think that this 12-year-old inspired little girl is doing amazing things for the diabetic community. And I think God just really, we all have a gift to share in the fact that it's a rarity in our culture for you to have type 1 and for you to be able to do something that you've been instilled. You said, oh, I'm a compassionate person. I mean, this has been your life calling. So I'm just grateful to be able to share this amazing woman worth knowing, Alexis Newman. And you guys definitely connect with her, learn more from her, not only about diabetes, but also just about general nutrition. She can help you with both if you need those things. And yeah, until next time, guys, be blessed.
Thank you.
Check out other women worth knowing on my YouTube channel.